Going in 3, 5, 7. Joking. 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, so this is a pedal board. You've got the chromatic scale, chromatic tuner, wah-wah pedal, distortions and overdrives, modulation, and delay, and the reverb. It's best to start off with the tuner, because you need a strong, clear signal from your guitar. If you put the effects in front of the tuner, this may compromise the signal your tuner pedal receives, and thus may give you an inaccurate tuning reading. The second, the envelope filter and tone shaping effects. These include auto wahs and wah pedals. These effects rely on the dynamics of your guitar tone and should be the first thing your signal sees after the tuner pedal. Third, the overdrives, distortions and fuzzies, and in that order. If you go from the least amount of drive to the greatest amount of drive, you can get some pretty cool combinations. A low gain pedal can be a great solo boost into the higher gain pedal, but the other way round can often spell disaster. There is one major exception to this. Germanium transistor boosters, such as fuzz faces, octavias and treble boosters. The nature of the design of these effects means that they don't like to see the buffer from another pedal at the input. They prefer to see the guitar pickup. So if you have one of these type of pedals, best to stick it in front of the at the front before any buffers. Next would be the modulation effects. These include choruses and tremolos. It can also include flangers, but many prefer them right at the front with phasers. The specific order of the modulation effects is probably the least important, as you rarely use more than one at a time. And if you do, is more a sound effect than a toneful combination. Or you could use phasers, vibes or flangers. This might sound a bit unusual, but try these before your overdrive and distortion pedals. Phasers work so great going into gain stages, such as overdrives or preamps. Flangers can work great at the end of the chain, but for that Van Halen type flanger, it needs to go right at the front before the overdrives. Next would be the delay effects. A good rule of thumb here, if you use multiple delay effects, is to put your short delay before your long delay, adding a nice drawn out delay on top of a slap back effect can sound quite cool. And finally, reverb. Technically speaking, reverb is actually a delay effect. Very short delays combine to give the effect of being in an enclosed space. Think about what happens when you shout in a hall. That's the delayed sound of your voice bouncing off the walls. Leaving this effect till last works well with many different combinations, including clean and dirty sounds. Okay, so what is an effects loop? Basically, an effects loop is an input-output that enables a user to insert effects between the preamp EQ section and the power section of an amplifier. If a guitarist is using a pedal to achieve the overdriven tone, then there is no problem running all effects into the front of the amp. Usually in this setup, the overdrive and gain or level boosting effects will be the first in line after the guitar, with time bass and modulation effects coming after. With the introduction of higher gain preamps that produced overdrive, manufacturers started creating effects loops so that modulation and time-based effects could be inserted into the amplifier after the overdrive channel and before the power amp, thus keeping the overdrive first in line. Originally, amplifiers were built without an effects loop, only allowing effects to be run straight into the front of the amp. This arrangement is perfect for the guitarist running an overdrive, fuzz, compressor or booster, or for those using the amplifier for clean tones, running all effects into the front. The problem is when the gain channel of an amplifier is used for an overdrive tone. In general, time-based effects like delay and reverb and modulation effects like chorus and phase tend to sound more natural when applied to the signal after it is overdriven. As a basic rule of thumb, most guitarists prefer to add modulation to an already overdriven signal. When the modulation is applied before the overdrive, it can lead to a duller sound, or in the case of a delay, the effect could wash out.